Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. I just wanted to check in today and show you a tour of our Montessori homeschool slash distance learning environment that we've got going on for this year, this weird COVID time. Normally my kids go to Montessori schools, both public Montessori, and things are different this year. Both of the schools are distance learning only, which really doesn't work for my oldest child, Henry, who's 9 and starting in 4th grade in upper elementary. So he's going to be homeschooling this year using Montessori here at home. And then we have Nora, who is in 1st grade in her first year of lower elementary at a public Montessori, and she's doing the distance learning with support with us here at home. So here's a tour of our space. If you have any questions, leave a comment. Check out my blog post that accompanies this video if you want links or details to some of the products that we've used. I hope you enjoy. This is our first shelf, and it's our Great Lessons shelf and sort of cultural history sort of stuff. And our first great lesson right now is the first great lesson on the creation of the universe. So we have some materials that support that. And then just generally stuff for the world. So this is our pin it map. There are little pins here that they can label different geographical features of the earth, different parts of the map, different waterways. And they're there for Henry to be able to grab. And then they just poke into like sort of the little spots on the map, which is very cool. And then down here on our second shelf, we have books that support our learning with the first great lesson. We have some materials here. I think they're both from Washika, biomes, parts of the globe, and parts of the atmosphere. So Henry's working with those as well. Then we just have blank paper, sort of cut into smaller book type sizes, and our charts from the first great lesson that I painted myself. So those are there for inspiration, should anybody need them. And down here we have a puzzle of the Earth. It's North America when it's all put together, so sort of relevant for us here in North America. This is volcano mountain work that I made. It should be all standing up nice and neat here with little pictures of different volcanoes, but it's not, so we'll leave it. And then this work sort of shows the inside of a volcano that goes with our work. This is also a DIY of the solar system, and there are little pictures of the solar system that they can label a big solar system mat with, as well as a 4 puzzle I wanted to give Nora and Henry just some familiar puzzle activities that they could do to sort of support the great lesson learning if they just needed to like have something to get into their work cycle. So that's our great lessons. We also have the magnets up there, which are really just sort of fun to decorate with, but also provide some more solar system learning. In this basket right here, it's our weekly library books. So Henry and Nora can go into our library, and a book for me as well when I have time, and have books to read during their day. Either I can read them or they can read them. Some are a little bit of both. This is our giant chalkboard, and I write the date and our journaling questions and things like that. It also provides good space for practicing letters and numbers and writing and all that good stuff. Up top, we have our rules for Zoom and our rules and expectations for our classroom that we all came to an agreement together on and decided on before we started this whole process, and signed our names to, so that we all know what our agreements are. On the side here, we have our journaling options. For the day. Henry needs to pick one of these things to do every single day, and that just is there to remind him what his options are for his language journal. We have shelf number 2 over here. We have some geometry materials and the geometric stick material. And this is the geometry cabinet, so that looks like that inside, and there's all sorts of great geometry work that they can do including some matching cards here and some other sort of geometric learning that can take place there. We have a pencil sharpener here because there's lots of colored pencil and pencil use. And then down here we have the movable alphabet and a mat. Nora's using these materials still, so they're out for her. And then here we have our command center sort of stuff. This is Nora's and this is Henry's. And they have their language journals in here, their math journals, whatever like sort of notebooks that they need to like keep materials, and it's sort of that kind of notebook for Nora. And then Henry has, oh, this is the same one for him. Most of his are just lined paper. And so we've got their finished and their unfinished folders for work, or their work plans and that kind of stuff. And so it's like all of their work is in there. Things like their, work journal for school, and, Henry's dictionary, all sorts of, things that elementary students need all in one spot. Then next here we have blue light glasses and these are noise canceling earbuds, which are really great for times when people are working on a computer or there's like extra noise and stuff in the environment. Down here, this is some of our movement stuff that just sort of lives in this playroom. We have bean bags and balls when we need to move our bodies. And then a big old thing of play silks where we can, build forts and run around with that kind of thing. Our work mats stay over here on this side. And while we're talking about movement, I'll come over here and show you our movement materials because it's such an important part of our environment is getting to move around. And so we have our trampoline, we have hilltops that can be flipped over and made into all sorts of sort of climbing, big foam blocks. They do have some open-ended play materials up there. Our fireplace, we have a swing, which is hung from the ceiling. Another cozy little corner to sit, a dollhouse, and the doll materials are up there that they can pull down to play with the dollhouse. And then we have our nugget, which makes, almost endless amounts of movement options. So that's this half of the room. Now let me show you the other side. So coming back over here, we have our table. I'm waiting for the delivery of a larger table so that all the kids can work a little bit more easily together because this is pretty tight for 2 elementary school kids. Then we have our sort of command center of material like stuff. All the sorts of pencils and pens. This is from IKEA. So we have out in our environment right now chalkboards, and this is a dry erase marker with the graph dry erase on the back, which is really helpful. And then just lined chalkboards, and on the back they're blank so that they can write with them at their own spots. Then they have markers, colored pencils, erasers, pencils, scissors, glue, chalk, and these are erasable colored pencils, which is also helpful. So I plan on keeping that mostly the same materials out most of the year, but we might rotate some art materials if we have a specific need for that, but we're not sure. At this point, that's working pretty good. We also have these wonderful like little cups that keep materials right at the table so that they don't always need to go up to get a pencil or a pen, but those are really great. So right through here is my office / our library / our infant play area. So let me give you a tour of that. In from our main classroom here, we have a little section for Teddy. Since he's down here so often, we just have to have some materials for him. Otherwise, he just pulls our stuff off. And then these are our shelves where the kids can come and pick sort of books for the week if they want, or reference books that they need. And then we'll go back out here. And so over here, we have our math area. We have the short chains, which Nora works with. And then we have sort of our larger, bigger board stuff. So that we have our checkerboard. We have a cork board for the geometric stick materials. And we have, it's not math at all, but it's our big board for cursive tracing. So they all sort of tuck in behind the shelves. Then starting at the top here, we have a bunch of math papers. So they have little sheets where they can fill out math facts, and that's addition, subtraction, and I believe multiplication back here. And then we have some snake game papers back here for Nora to do snake game work. They also have addition problems. Oops, that's multiplication, addition, and subtraction problems that they can work on here. Dot game paper and bead frame paper. Then we have the large bead frame and then some other sorts of charts and helpful math tips back there. Coming here, we have the squares that go with the short chain. We have some math dice, which are helpful. The stamp game, which mostly Nora uses at this point, and the 100 board, also mostly for Nora. And down here, we have the checkerboard beads and tiles. Then we have word problems that Henry can grab. Sometimes we'll use the 10 bars for something, for some math. And then we have the fraction circles and pieces for their work. So this is mostly Henry right now up there. We have the multiplication bead board and the division bead board. Henry and Nora both use those. And then bead houses. And so Nora uses these to create bead families to learn her math facts. So those are also sitting there. We do have some math work over here as well, sort of in our middle shelf. These are really cute little multiplication facts for those who need multiplication learning still. So you can go, and Henry's been writing all of these down so that he has a whole entire chart of the answers for that. Then we have our sort of half DIY'd here snake game materials, which Nora is working on those. And then we have the Hello Wood clock set. I guess it's not going to open, but there's the clock set for sort of Nora to learn how to tell time. We'll come back up here at the top, and the rest of the shelf is sort of language learning. We have our daily spelling options. So I give Henry an option of how he wants to do spelling each day. He can choose any of these topics anytime. He just has to choose at least one every day. Here's some extra paper. We have strips of paper for either writing math problems or writing, honestly, labeling the environment. There's all sorts of things you need like little strips of paper for. We have larger strips of paper, which I write our work plans on each morning, and a tiny little clipboard that they can use to carry around those work plans. So that sort of stays here in the top of that shelf. We have some yarn for finger knitting. We have a little thing of Legos to help us get into our work cycle if we need something easy to sort of pick, and we can flip our timer just a couple of minutes to warm up our hands with those. So then that was that math work, and now we have some more language materials. This is for Nora. She's still working on identifying P, D, and B, and so we have these, and then a little box of language objects that she can match to those letters right there. And then this is some stamping work that Henry is working on for his handwriting. You can stamp it and then they're dotted so that you can trace with an actual pencil to help remember those forms. And then it's just got stamps right back there. And we have some phonogram work for Nora and some punctuation work for Henry. So that's sort of our language, some language materials. Then we have some more. Back up here, we have our function of words chart, which tells all the different parts of speech. We just have some more practical life stuff up here. Cross stitch for Nora, some sewing work for Nora. And then we have our grammar symbols, which I just take the one that we're currently studying and put it down here. So that's where the adjective box is. Here we have our Washika reading program, which we're using for spelling and for reading. So Nora is working on spelling, Nora is working on reading, and Henry is working on spelling using these, and each little box has materials, both pictures and labels that they can label, and then a little book to read as well. So Nora's working on those, and Henry uses the same word lists in these for spelling. And then coming down here, we have some more grammar stuff. We have our dictionary, and then these awesome little books if you were a noun, if you were an adjective. So right now we're brushing up on adjective for Henry. It's sort of a review for him. And Nora, it will be the first lesson that she has on it. And then I just put the ones that we're done with over here so that they can always come back and study nouns some more if they'd like. And then we have our grammar pieces. Whoops. We have our grammar pieces that they use for different sentence work. Like these. These are little cards that they could label the parts of speech in. We have the grammar stencils so that they could do that with a stencil as well. There, the grammar piece, just sort of to remind us what we're doing this week, which is adjectives. Down here we have sentence analysis, which Henry is going to be learning soon. And then we have Bob books for Nora to read. So that's sort of her language work, which she reads aloud to me. And then we have sort of our word cabinet, word study, all sorts of language materials for Henry. So let me go through these. Within these drawers, we have sort of compound words. They're all different types of parts of speech. I think these are synonyms and antonyms, homonyms, all sorts of things like that. Down here we have some punctuation command cards, which also Henry is using. And then we have some more work, abstract nouns from last week, and we'll add to this sort of language material as we go through the parts of speech again, most of which is a review for Henry, but we're just taking this first few months of school to review and really solidify those things in his mind. Then our final shelf over here is actually work for Augustus. So let's check that out. Our shelf, we have a couple of scientific experiment materials, and then the rest of this work is for Gus. He joins us in the afternoons down here, and this just gives him some time of some work that he can do if he chooses. This is Foam Alive. It's a sensory material. And then we just have some fall sort of theme materials, like little beads that he can match up the colors, which is a really good fine motor work for him. We have some counting work with little ladybugs, so a little DIY, a little button frame, which is also a DIY. Then we have some people-colored crayons and some little like blank people outlines that he can use to color people. And then the sandpaper numerals down there. And so that's it. It's just a little tiny shelf for him since he's in Children's House in the morning. So it looks like that all together. And yeah, it's been really great having it, and it's working out really well so far.